Jim Schwartz, you have some explaining to do right there, buddy. You have a lot of explaining to do. I would say basically the entire game. The defense sucked. I would say especially on that final play, that final touchdown by the Steelers. Why is Nate Gerry covering Claypool, who already had 3 touchdowns in the game, by the way? But Nate Gerry, probably our worst coverage guy, and he's covering the guy that had basically every touchdown for the Steelers today. Their best wide receiver the entire day. And it's just, why? What was the mindset going in there? What was the thought process, huh? I have no response. I can't think of anything. I can't, because it's just like, what in the hell just happened? It's just, you're putting our worst guy there, covering the guy that has 3 touchdowns already in the game, and he makes him look stupid. It's probably very easy to do on Nate Gerry because he sucks. He's our worst coverage guy. Out of the entire team, he's our worst defender. But seriously, like, what was Jim Schwartz's thought process going into that? And I'm not going to be the guy calling for Jim Schwartz's head. I know there's definitely a ton of Eagles fans right now rambling through social media that Jim Schwartz should be fired. That's probably a fireable offense. I don't think I'm in the right mind. I don't think I'm in the right call to do that right there. I'm just basically going through what I see right now. It was definitely a terrible call. No, without a doubt, it was definitely a terribly called game on the defensive side on Jim Schwartz. Just defensively, we couldn't stop the Steelers at all on 3rd down. At all. I think there were 11 for 15 on 3rd down conversions. 11 for 15, that's not good. It's not a recipe to win a game. It's not. And then just so many penalties in this game. So many on the defensive side. You take 9 penalties in total. There were 3 passer interference penalties. Granted, the first one on Slay, very questionable, but just because, one, it didn't even look like passer interference for a reason. And then also, the flag felt like it came out 5 minutes after the play stopped. So it's just like, what the hell is going on at that point? But to me, I just like, okay, it happened, it is what it is. I really can't argue on the fact at that point, but still, it felt like that flag, it definitely was. The flag was very late, and it felt like it wasn't a passer interference penalty, but I digress. After the Steelers' first drive of the game, where the Eagles' defense actually looked pretty good, and they stopped them, the Steelers' next 5 drives after that, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, touchdown. They scored 5 times in a row. The Eagles could have stopped them with a lick. At all. Yeah, the offense did respond. I would say the offense was not the reason this team lost this game. I know some people will probably argue to that fact that I felt like Carson Wentz had a much better game today. Yes, the interception did hurt them a little bit. Definitely did, because they managed to score on that play, put the defense in a terrible position right there. But I don't feel like Carson Wentz was all to blame. I don't think he was to blame at all. And then, I guess I'm going to try to pull a bright side out of this. Fulgham, where the hell did you come from? After that big touchdown catch that he had last week against San Fran, he comes out today and, oh my goodness. Oh my. Fulgham, what the hell? He had 10 receptions, 152 yards, and a touchdown in this game. And I think the stat on Fulgham after, I think he made his 10th reception and the touchdown as well. I think he's the first Eagle to have 10 receptions and at least 150 yards total since, I think, Jeremy Maclin. It's been a while. It's been a while since a wide receiver has been very successful on this organization. Very successful. And Fulgham, he was a walk-on in his college. He was waived by the Detroit Lions, waived by the Packers. And he comes to the Eagles. He has to be put in the spot because Eagles, they're a wide receiver factory at this point. He comes in, he makes the big catch last week, and he has a huge game today. Maybe there's a sleeper right there in Fulgham. Maybe if he's utilized a lot more, because it looks like right now Wentz trusts him a lot. He's trusted him a lot. Definitely going down the stretch of the game as well. But I have to applaud him right there. I have to applaud Fulgham for the game that he had. He had a fantastic game. And hopefully he can be utilized a lot more. And then the play by Miles Sanders, going for that 70-plus yard touchdown right there. But it also did feel like, after Sanders made that big touchdown run, It felt like he wasn't being utilizing enough, and he just wasn't gaining much yardage. Granted, the Steelers' rush defense is the best in the NFL. I get that. But it also did feel like after Sanders, that big touchdown, even though he did get another touchdown later in the first half, it just felt like he wasn't utilized enough more. Like when a guy has that big of a run right there, I feel like you should use him a lot during the rest of the game because Miles Sanders definitely can be a game changer. But also you're going up against the best rush defense in the NFL. But still, felt like he wasn't utilized enough there. It just didn't. And just going back to the defensive side of the ball, just not good enough. Just terrible. Then you also get Fletcher Cox going offside on one of those plays at the beginning of the third quarter. You get LeBlanc not tackling the guy when he should on 3rd and 5. They get a first down off of that. And then the very next play, they go all the way down to your 5-yard line, then get a touchdown later. Make the stop. Tackle the guy. What are you doing? Because you make that tackle, they don't get the first down, and they don't get that gigantic 50-plus yard play right there to get a touchdown eventually. It just doesn't happen if you make that play. And then the Eagles, when they're down by so much in this game, 20-plus points, they work their way to come back. They try to. They do force a fumble. They do. They score. They make some nice plays. Carson Wentz making some nice plays right there too. Fulgham being Fulgham this entire game. The guy just broke out of nowhere. Definitely did. Making some plays, getting some touchdowns right there. Fulgham gets a touchdown. You convert on the 2-pointer right there. Ward also gets a touchdown as well. But then, it's just that, it's that final play right there. And then also going into the end of the second half as well. End of the second half before I go into that stuff. There was a big play right there that could have happened, and it didn't. Very questionable. Very questionable on the second play that happened right after that. So Carson Wentz, there's a couple seconds left in the half, and he goes for the long shot. And he has Hightower wide open. The ball perfectly lands in Hightower's arms. He cannot grasp the ball. He cannot catch it. He should have caught it. Because if he does, that's a touchdown right there for the Eagles, and they go up with the lead at the half. And it doesn't happen, and then on the very next play, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside actually makes a catch. He actually made a catch. Huh. But you know what the stupidest comes out of this play? Because it did absolutely nothing. Because there were 7 seconds left when he caught the ball. One, he doesn't realize where the clock is to try to get a spike on the ball, nor does he try to go out of bounds at the same time. The Steelers, they did a good job from preventing him from going out of bounds. I'll give him that. But then it looked like he was starting to celebrate a lot right there because, one, I don't think he realized where clock management was. Clock management. And then there's no time to spike the ball. He's literally just trying to celebrate right here, but then he realized there's like 5 seconds left. They're like, oh God, we got to spike the ball. And then you run out of time. It's a huge catch that does absolutely nothing to help you. It did absolutely nothing because honestly you hurt yourself in that process. You did. Because you couldn't manage the clock right. You weren't able to go out of bounds, and you couldn't realize how much time was left in order to spike the ball to try to get another play going before the half ends. And it kind of hurt you much right there because, like I said, in that very next part of the third quarter when it started, LeBlanc can't make the tackle. They go all the way down the field. They get the touchdown. And then when the Steelers go up by that many, got a couple touchdowns going in thereafter. Ward, Hightower gets a 2-point conversion. Fulgham gets a touchdown as well. But then it's just that when the Eagles get the fumble reception and they can't go down the field, they can't find a way to score on that fumble. They got all the way to, I think it was around the 40 to 45 yard line. Maybe like closer to the 50. I think it was more closer to the 40, 45. And it's 4th and 5. Doug Peterson decides to go for the field goal. It would put the Eagles up by a couple points. So, in the mindset right there, where is aggressive Doug Peterson? I think Doug Peterson, if he was aggressive enough, he would have gone for it on that 4th down. But he did stay with the 57-yard field goal attempt, and Jake Elliott just missed it by this much. And of course, it's going to be one of those situations where you go with the second guess option on why Doug Peterson doesn't go with try to go for it on 4th down at least. But then the mind process on that play though the Eagles are only down by, 2-3 points right there. I think they were down by 2. And then putting them up by a field goal would only put them up by at least like 1 point. And then I think it was like 3 minutes left in the game. The Steelers would have had all the time in the world to go down the field and score with the way our defense was playing. No doubt in my mind, they would have gone down the field and probably scored a touchdown, maybe a field goal. Never know what would have happened. But it's just that going for it in fourth down was definitely the better option than going for it on that field goal. Maybe if Jake Elliott hits that field goal, it's a different story. Maybe the defense does make a stop. Maybe they stop the Steelers, or something. They get the ball back and they score once again. But that's not the case, is it? It's not the case that happened right there. And then before the Nate Gerry play, where he completely got outplayed by Claypool, there was a little bit of a situation right here where it looked like the Eagles turned over the ball. It did. Or the Steelers, turned over the ball. And on the play, they called it an interception where clearly the ball was knocked out of the guy's hands when he landed, and then the Eagles recovered it, and they ran down the field. But they called it an interception, and then, of course, on the play right there, the play review, they were going to overturn the call because it's not an interception, and 2, I believe that it should have been called a fumble, because if it was called a fumble, it probably would have stood, because the receiver, he had the ball, he was landing, he landed on both of his feet, and he still had possession of the ball. Then it got knocked out of his hands, and it landed on the ground. So I think that's a bit of a miscue right there by the refs, who also did have a bad game today as well. Even though the Eagles had so much penalty trouble in this game, there was bad calls on both sides of the field. Definitely some bad calls, some definitely bad pass interference calls right there. It just wasn't a good overall game for the refs, and also the penalties as well. It's just that you don't get the call, I guess, going in your favor, and then the Steelers capitalize it on the very next play when Nate Gerry is basically guarding the best receiver of the day. And you know what happens right there. He fails, they get a touchdown, and then the Eagles try to go on their very next drive to try and score. They're pinned in their own zone, and then Wentz tries to go for a deep throw. It basically is a punt at that point because it's an interception, and that's game at that point. It's game. You can't do anything about that. And I don't blame Wentz for that right there. I don't blame Wentz for this entire game. The defense was just bad. The defense was just overall bad. Not good enough. They couldn't stop the Steelers on the third down throughout this entire damn game. Some key plays that could have turned the other direction for us if we made those plays. Basically, LeBlanc, if he doesn't make that, if he makes that tackle on 3rd and 5, would have been probably a completely different game at that point. But still, it is what it is. Now the Eagles lose once again. They're now 1-3-1. And who knows? I think right now, because Washington lost today, and I think right now because Dallas and the Giants are tied. Originally they were losing 17-13, Dallas, but right now it's going towards the halftime at this point, the 2-minute warning of the second quarter, and Dallas tied it at 17. I was honestly expecting it to go a lot later because Dallas has been very known to be the comeback king during the season. The way they came back against Atlanta, they almost came back against Buffalo. This is definitely going to be a game that Dallas wins. And I would think if Dallas wins, I would assume the Eagles go to second place. So it's just a crapshoot of division. We all know that. And this was I would say from a fan's perspective, very entertaining, but if Eagles fans' perspective, very frustrating on the defensive side, just because Jim Schwartz was just very questionable play calls. Very questionable play calls. And I know there's going to be a lot of people calling for his head. I don't think I'm in a position to call for his head just because, I don't know. I'm just speechless at this point. I'm just speechless at what I saw on the field. I'm just them. So, I would say very entertaining game. The offense did what they had to do. The defense just sucked. And yes, the offense couldn't score on 2 different key situations, one at the end of the first half, and then on that fumble recovery. Shit happens. Shit happens. And the defense, they just sucked the entire game. They did. So I want to hear your thoughts on this game. I want to hear your thoughts on Jim Schwartz because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of thoughts on Jim Schwartz after today. And what are your thoughts on Carson Wentz's game? Do you feel like he had a better game today? And just overall your thoughts on the game in general. So don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.